Nothing is more important than getting a good night's sleep, and when you don't get the rest you need, your whole day is thrown off. That's why it's so important to choose the right mattress. Sleeping on a Purple mattress is truly a unique experience because Purple mattresses are made with a GelFlex grid. The GelFlex grid is an innovative material that moves with your body to relieve pressure in areas like knees and hips and support in others like your back. It feels soft where you want it and supports where you need it. Purple mattresses instantly adapt when you move. You don't sink in and get stuck like with memory foam. And thanks to over 1,400 air chambers in the GelFlex grid, you will sleep cooler on a Purple mattress. Purple has a wide variety of mattresses, from the original Purple mattress to the Restore Hybrid collection that combines GelFlex grid with coils, and the Rejuvenate Luxe collection, the height of luxury, with over 112,000 five-star reviews to prove it. Visit purple.com to find the perfect Purple for you and enter code podcast10 to get 10% off.
It's better over here.
Now at T-Mobile, get 4 5G phones on us and 4 lines for $25 a line per month when you switch with eligible trade-ins. All on America's largest 5G network.
Minimum of 4 lines for $25 per line per month with autopay discount using debit or bank account. $5 more per line without autopay, plus taxes and fees and $10 device connection charge. Phones via 24 monthly bill credits for well-qualified customers. Contact us before canceling entire account to continue bill credits or credit stop and balance on a required finance agreement due. Bill credits end if you pay off devices early. See T-Mobile.com.
From the mind of a 2-foot-tall talking spokes puppet comes this year's biggest challenge. It's time for Bob's Dare to Compare, the hottest game show on TV that asks, what happens when you compare Bob's to the competition? You get style. You get quality. You get beeps and boops and dings and whomps. And thousands of dollars in savings. Everyone's a winner when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop in store or at mybobs.com to play now.
Showtime. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Ready.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show, starring Bob Lutz.
Jeff has made a life of being himself, and look what it's got him. He's on a TV show at 12:30. You know what they used to put? Beep at that time.
Jeff Lutz.
Here's why I've gone vegan. It's not really like the milk or the eggs themselves. It's what milk and eggs are put into.
If you ask me, that stuff rots your brain.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Stand by for action.
My mind is elsewhere.
Hello again and welcome. It's the Friday edition, the Bob and Jeff Show here on KFH Radio. Things don't sound the same when we come into the studio. I got to adapt to that a little bit.
What's wrong?
Just a little different sound coming into my headset.
It'll be all right.
Jeff Lutz with me. I'm Bob Lutz. We are the co-hosts. Max Power is producing and engineering the show, and he waited until 15 seconds before we went on the air to tell us that the receiver for Baltimore, Likely, should have been ruled inbounds.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely.
Likely.
I said if it was the Chiefs,
lively.
if that was the Chiefs, they would have said inbounds.
Not a chance.
No, because they have integrity, and that his toe, while barely. Now, I don't get why the Ravens raised all this ruckus.
I don't get that either. It's clearly on the line. I would have loved for it not to be. I would have loved.
Well, we all picked Baltimore.
Not even for that reason. I wanted to see how that 2-point conversion would have gone. We would have had some. I guess we had drama before we found out that the ball and the receiver was out of bounds.
It would have been high drama.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to see that. It was a heck of a throw, but you know how he could have made his life easier? Hitting wide open Zay Flowers a couple plays before that.
Yeah, but Zay Flowers was kind
of yards behind him.
Well, Zay Flowers was kind of streaking across the middle. It wasn't a good throw, but it also wasn't just an easy throw.
You know what Lamar doesn't have that Patrick Mahomes does?
What?
Accuracy.
Oh, stop!
It's the truth.
I'm so tired of that argument against Lamar Jackson.
But it's the truth.
I'm with Bob.
That's fine, but I'm over that. Who cares? He's a 2-time MVP.
The game last night, which I don't know that you did.
Yeah, I didn't watch every second of it with you.
It was obvious.
What kind of? I mean, that's where you're going. See, you can't even.
I like Lamar Jackson, but he's never going to beat Patrick Mahomes
without saying I didn't watch the game when I watched it with you. So how do you?
I forgot.
How do you expect to go around that?
I forgot you were there. I know Shannon came over, your wife.
Oh, stop. See, you've already lost in total credibility by saying, I don't even know if you watched it. And now everything else you say is a lie. So go for it.
Anyway, I stand by my assertion. Now, nobody runs like Lamar. He's a fantastic football player. But when you need that pinpoint throw, now he made a good one to Likely, no question about it. And he's not just totally wanting as a pass quarterback, but the reason the Chiefs are going to beat them, and they'll beat them again, is because Mahomes is more accurate.
Great. Mahomes is more accurate than just about everybody.
Right.
But if we're in here downplaying Lamar Jackson, I'm not into that.
But when they say, if that's the best you can play, and we played our worst, we'll see you in the playoffs, shut up, Baltimore. Shut up. That sounds so ridiculous because you haven't proven that you can beat the Chiefs. You come close. Pretty much every game in the NFL is pretty close.
I've tried to tell you that for 20 years.
But you don't beat them.
And by the way, 2 years ago, Lamar Jackson was at 67%. Last year he was at 63%. Mahomes hovers around 65 to 67. There's not that much difference between the two of the, and Lamar's a better runner. I'm not going to come in here and Lamar Jackson, well, he's never beat the Chiefs.
You know what I'm not
going to do it.
I'm going to come in here and tell it like it is.
But you're not telling it like it is.
Max agrees.
Yeah, but maybe it just was a bad game. It was the first game.
No, he didn't have a bad game. Lamar Jackson had a really good game.
Actually, It was last year that Lamar was at 67. I'm looking at already this year where he's 63 yesterday. So he's the same as Mahomes, a better runner, two-time MVP. The Chiefs are a better team than Baltimore.
And Mahomes
the Chiefs
is a better quarterback.
Not by much. The Chiefs have better players.
I would take Mahomes all day long.
Great.
Over Lamar Jackson.
That's fine.
And so would you.
Sure, but I'm not coming in here
and what the Chiefs have done is that they've now surrounded Mahomes with this bevy of weapons. So the first time Xavier Worthy touched the ball in the NFL, he went to the house.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it.
He scored another touchdown later in the game. Rashee Rice, they explained why he's playing with all these charges against him. I'm not sure I get it, but it is what it is. He was fantastic. Travis Kelce's going to slow down, but Noah Gray is right there.
Again, the Chiefs are great.
Isaiah Pacheco, who I happen to have on my fantasy team, is one of the 4 or 5 best backs in the NFL.
It's unfortunate we had to start this show by bashing a guy who was an inch or two away from winning that game. Lamar Jackson going on the road and making a nearly perfect pass to win the game. And, he's not very accurate.
No, I didn't say that. What he's lacking that Mahomes has is pinpoint accuracy.
Whatever. There's no difference in their completion percentage. The guy's a 2-time MVP. I'm just not going to join. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon.
Well, then shut up and let me talk.
But you're just wrong.
Who cares what you have to say if I'm the one doing the talking?
He's throwing to his best. Zay Flowers is very good. Mark Andrews has been banged up. Zay
Flowers is very good, but they completely took him out of the game last night. He wasn't a factor. The only guy that was a factor was Isaiah Likely.
Right. And did Lamar not recognize that and start going to him?
Yes. The secondary for the Chiefs was really good. Bateman had a big catch, but that was really the only damage he did in the game. Mark Andrews, nothing. Aguilar, nothing. Derrick Henry.
Aguilar.
They kept him in check. He scored a touchdown.
Well, Derrick Henry's done.
But he didn't have a big game.
He's done.
So I'd give the Chiefs an A- for opening night. They were pretty much everything you thought they would be.
Yeah, again, I was ready to come in here and extol the virtues of the Chiefs. And no question they're better than the Ravens. Their defense looked really good. Their offense is going to be unstoppable when it hits that midseason form and Hollywood Brown's back. But to start by saying, well, Lamar, no. No, not going to do it.
There's a reason Lamar doesn't beat the Chiefs.
I'm going to talk about who won the game.
I've pinpointed what I think it is.
But you're wrong.
Well, then I don't think I am wrong.
He made a great pass last year to Flowers, who just had the ball knocked out at the end zone. That's not on Lamar.
Look up Lamar's career numbers against the Chiefs.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Because a team is more than its quarterback, and I just don't join in on that stuff. I'm not part of that.
Then you've made that clear. So
I'm not
fine.
part of that chorus of you've never won the big one. He just hasn't won it yet. Doesn't mean he won't. Doesn't mean he can't.
He won't.
He just hasn't.
He won't, as long as Patrick Mahomes is in the league.
Okay.
Because he can't beat him.
Great.
Why are you angry about this?
He has beaten him. He has a win against him.
Why are you so angry about
Because
this?
I'm just annoyed that you act like this authority. You tried to explain a rule yesterday where you couldn't have been more wrong when you were trying to explain that lining up in the backfield thing. It's just I'm over it. I'm over it.
What do you mean you're over it?
I'm over it.
Over what?
The acting like you're an authority because you talk louder than everybody else. I'm just done with that. Lamar Jackson is an amazing football player, and he will continue to be an amazing football player who will contend for conference championships and MVPs and be a threat to go to the Super Bowl. And full stop. That's where I'm ending it.
He's 1-4 in his career against the Chiefs. That win came back in 2021. In that career, he's at 58% completion rate for 5 touchdowns in those 5 games. I don't know.
Okay. So he hasn't played well a few times against the Chiefs. Welcome to every other player in the league. That's why the Chiefs win all the time.
To 1,023 yards.
Because they keep other players from playing well.
He's averaging a little over 200 yards per game in those games.
Wonderful. I don't know. Again, I still don't know quite what point you're trying to make.
Well, I made it.
With these arguments.
You disagree with it. Patrick Mahomes in his 5 games against Baltimore, averaging 354 yards per game, 72% completion rate, 13 touchdowns.
Wonderful.
Dude, I don't know what to tell you.
Great.
I mean, now you're backing off.
I'm not backing off anything. Again, 5 games, yes. The Chiefs are better. I've said it. The Chiefs are better than the Ravens. They have proven that. But to say it's just Lamar Jackson's fault or this,
I didn't say it was his fault.
You basically said it was their downfall.
One of the biggest differences in these teams, and there's not a lot, because when they play, it's always close. But there's the difference, in my opinion, is the quarterback.
So you're saying that's his fault then?
Well, the numbers bear it out. Pretty substantially even. And I didn't even look at the numbers before I made that statement.
Great. No one's arguing.
72% completion rate to 58 is a big difference. 354 yards per game to 202.
Lamar Jackson doesn't throw for 300 yards. He's not that type of quarterback.
To 5, big difference. That's all I got, man. Congratulations to the Chiefs. Now they get the Bengals coming in.
That's like saying, well, John Smoltz only hit 119, but Mark McGuire hit 380. They're completely different players.
They play each other.
Fine. They're not similar.
They play the same position.
They are not similar.
John Smoltz was a pitcher. Mark McGuire was a hitter.
Okay, McGuire.
Otherwise, your comparison's
okay, Mark McGuire and Casey Kochman. Do I need to compare their power numbers?
No.
It's like sometimes players are different.
How are they different?
Lamar Jackson is the best runner as a quarterback in the history of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes might be the best quarterback in the history of the NFL.
But when you have to have it,
so
late
far
in the game, like last night, when you have to have it, it's about who throws the ball.
I guess.
Can't run it in that situation. The run's nullified. He can't run.
And Jackson got him all the way down to where they needed to be.
And he missed a wide-open receiver before that pass.
That was not an easy pass. It's not like he was camped under there waving his hands. He was streaking across the end zone. And yes, he missed him. But
by a lot.
Threw behind him as he was running forward.
I just thought the 3 deep balls he threw were just... if he gets those better, he'll be...
Chiefs defended those well.
They weren't thrown
The Chiefs
well,
are
though.
better than the Ravens. Period.
And I laid out why I think that is.
And that's your opinion.
I don't think across the board you can point at, well, the Chiefs are better in this situation.
I think
the
you
Ravens
can.
have a heck of a team.
I think 1 through 53, the Chiefs are better.
I think versus 1, they're better. And that's not a slam on Lamar Jackson, who's a very good football player. But to get to where they want to get to, they've got to beat this team.
Understood.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Understood.
And they can't do it.
Oh, please. They haven't done it. It was the first game of the season.
You're on a roll today.
I'm just not that guy who I'm going to take a small sample and that means everything.
It's not that small of a sample.
Neither of these guys are even 30.
And that doesn't even include the playoff game. This is regular season. My goodness. I thought I had a good point coming into the show today.
Unfortunately, you do not.
I'd write this column and people would love it. Would you be one of those people at home slamming the newspaper down?
I would say that's a lazy take.
Really?
Yes.
Even when I back it up with all kinds
passing
of numbers. All kinds of
passing numbers.
No, I'd include the rushing.
No, you didn't.
I said here that there's no comparison between the two as a runner.
Okay, well then give me those running stats over those 5 games.
They didn't include those here.
Because Lamar rushed for over 100 last night, and Mahomes won't do that all year. Doesn't mean he's not better. It just means they're different players. And their styles are different, and they win different, and they're both great. They're both Hall of Fame talents. They're both MVPs. I'm just not going to go to the side of, well, it's Lamar's fault.
Here's what we have on the show today. At 2:25, we'll talk to Guerry Smith from the New Orleans Times-Picayune. He covers Tulane athletics. K-State on the road to visit Tulane tomorrow in one of the most interesting games, really, in the country. I'm curious to know what Guerry can tell us about Tulane as we prepare for that game. At 2:45, Stacy Olden, the executive director of the Wichita Orpheum Theater. Of course, the Orpheum announced this week that they will be undergoing a massive $10 million renovation campaign. And she'll describe that in detail for us coming up at 2:45. At 3:25, Joanna Chadwick joins us from Byte Magazine, as she does each and every Friday. We'll be talking about some of the games to watch tonight. Really the opening night of high school football. There was a smattering of games last night. Goddard Eisenhower beat
Valley Center
last night in the only area game of note. But we'll highlight some of the big games coming up tonight. But certainly no better and bigger game than night 1 of the NFL. Although night 2 looks pretty good. The game from Brazil tonight, Green Bay, Philadelphia, played in a stadium. It's going to be interesting. The first ever, obviously, NFL game played in Brazil. I don't know what to expect. I don't know how the teams are reacting to all this. They've pretty much been holed up in their hotel. I don't know what to think.
Hard to know. I assume it'll just come down to who's better on the field. I doubt that any of the extracurricular stuff over the course of the week or however long they've been there really comes into play. And I like Green Bay, I think, better than Philadelphia. That's why I picked Green Bay yesterday.
That would make sense since you picked them. The Royals begin an important series tonight at home against Minnesota. Meanwhile, Cleveland is playing who?
Dodgers.
Uh-oh.
Got to go through them somehow at some point.
This game could tighten up again.
Could, or it might not.
Although they're pitching somebody named Landon Knack.
He's okay. He's not terrible. He's one of their many guys that they developed through their farm system. Gavin
Stone, and then My very good friend Jack Flaherty goes in Game 3 of that series on Sunday.
Tough series for the guards.
We'll see. Kansas City, Minnesota with a chance. Both of those series worth keeping an eye on for sure. We got baseball to watch this weekend and tonight. We've got football everywhere you look. We've got the U.S. Open, which is continuing, although I don't have access to it because DirecTV and Disney still haven't resolved their differences. By the way, can we get that resolved?
Don't you go to the ESPN app and just log in?
No, you got to have your DirecTV login.
And they don't. Okay, I guess that's fair.
See, this is what I mean. Well, you're younger than me.
Even the app goes dark?
You think you know more than me.
Well, I do.
And you don't.
What is your... Settle down.
I'm not settled.
I know.
It just gets irritating because this is what people my age face every day.
Which is what?
Some young guy.
No, I just would have assumed if you had logged in on the app, it wouldn't have gone dark. It would just be
you got to have a provider.
It would just be the cable stuff that went out.
You got to have a provider.
I get it. I guess I won't give you mine.
I don't want it.
All right.
We're mortal enemies from this point forward.
Fine.
You're a hard-headed, thick-skulled
Are you just learning?
Goofball.
Are you just learning this?
And you don't have a clue.
Please.
And you're willing to get on this show in front of these listeners and prove it every day.
I think I articulated what I wanted to say extremely well.
You didn't convince Max.
Well, Max just went with the blanket, is he a more accurate passer? And that's not really...
that's all I said.
That's not really how the conversation evolved.
And that's why he beats him. All right, time for a break. We will break down K-State Tulane from the Tulane perspective with Guerry Smith. He joins the show next.
From the mind of a 2-foot-tall talking spokes puppet comes this year's biggest challenge. It's time for Bob's Dare to Compare, the hottest game show on TV that asks, what happens when you compare Bob's to the competition? You get style. You get quality. You get beeps and boops and dings and whomps. And thousands of dollars in savings. Everyone's a winner when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop in store or at mybobs.com to play now.
For the first time, U.S. subscribers can stream MLB Network 24/7, including select out-of-market games.
Swing and a drive. It's deep. It's gone. Yes.
Stream minor league affiliates.
Home run number 1. Or draft pick number 1.
Plus, get MLB Big Inning and live audio for all 30 teams.
Baseball can't get better than this.
Experience the game like never before with MLB Network and At-Bat, your all-in-one baseball destination. Only $6.99 per month. Visit MLB.com/at-bat for details. Blackout and other restrictions apply. MLB trademarks used with permission.
After investing billions to light up our network, T-Mobile is America's largest 5G network. Plus, right now, you can switch, keep your phone, and we'll pay it off up to $800. See how you can save on every plan versus Verizon and AT&T at T-Mobile.com/keep and switch.
Up to 4 lines via virtual prepaid card. Allow 15 days. Qualifying unlocked device credit service ported 90+ days with device and eligible carrier and timely redemption required. Card has no cash access and expires in 6 months.
Nothing is more important than getting a good night's sleep, and when you don't get the rest you need, your whole day is thrown off. That's why it's so important to choose the right mattress. Sleeping on a Purple mattress is truly a unique experience, because Purple mattresses are made with a GelFlex grid. The GelFlex grid is an innovative material that moves with your body to relieve pressure in areas like knees and hips, and support in others like your back. It feels soft where you want it and supports where you need it. Purple mattresses instantly adapt when you move. You don't sink in and get stuck like with memory foam. And thanks to over 1,400 air chambers in the GelFlex grid, you will sleep cooler on a Purple mattress. Purple has a wide variety of mattresses, from the original Purple mattress to the Restore Hybrid collection that combines GelFlex grid with coils, and the Rejuvenate Luxe collection, the height of luxury, with over 112,000 5-star reviews to prove it. Visit Purple.com to find the perfect Purple for you and enter code PODCAST10 to get 10% off.
This is the Bob and Jeff Show.
Guerry Smith, Times-Picayune in New Orleans, Tulane beat writer for quite some time now. Gary, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm starting to wonder. It's been raining here for two solid days now, and it's supposed to get out of the way for game time, but the forecast keeps having the rain leave later and later, so it might end up being a wet football game tomorrow.
Well, that would certainly add a wrinkle. Tulane under Willie Fritz has had a really, really good run. He, of course, has left for the Big 12 in Houston, but John Sumrall comes in from Troy, and by all accounts, this program at least hasn't missed a beat. What do you expect from the Green Wave in this very difficult game against Kansas State?
Well, yeah, I mean, they couldn't have made a better hire. Willie Fritz turned around the program and won 23 games in the last 2 years before going to Houston. And guess how many games that John Sumrall won at Troy? Yeah, that would be 23 games in the last 2 years. And Willie Fritz won one conference title. John Sumrall won back-to-back conference titles in his 2 years at Troy. And not only that, he has experience at Tulane. He was an assistant for 3 years under former coach Curtis Johnson on his staff. So he knows he's recruited the area before. He knows what it's like, and it was a home run hire for Tulane. So there's the total expectation here that the program is going to stay at the level that it has been the last couple of years, and if it's possible, maybe even get better.
So last week it was a blowout, but Tulane scored 8 touchdowns, and they got those touchdowns from seven different players. Is that how this team will succeed ultimately, or is that just because it was a blowout and maybe the rotation slims down a little bit?
Yeah, it's hard. You can't really glean a whole lot from playing Southeastern Louisiana, the team that went 3-8 last year in the FCS. I think the rotation will narrow down a bit. I mean, clearly the best returning player for Tulane this year on offense was Mekhi Hughes, their running back. He actually didn't do a whole lot in that game. At Troy last year, their running back led the nation in carries, and Mekhi Hughes is that type of back. The more carries you give him, the more damage he does, and I expect him to be the focal point of the offense. Certainly not the only piece, but I think he's going to play a much bigger role Saturday and for the rest of the season than he did in opener.
Guerry Smith with us from the New Orleans Times-Picayune, covers Tulane. So they brought in Ty Thompson, a former 5-star recruit, to be in the quarterback battle. I think the assumption was that he would be the guy. That hasn't been the case. Tell us how that all transpired.
It's quite it was quite the surprise. And that, look, Ty Thompson, he spent 3 years as a backup at Oregon, really only got in blowout when he arrived in the spring. I certainly thought he would end up being the quarterback. Now, they did have a returning quarterback in Kai Horton, another fourth-year guy who'd started 4 games over his career and had some good moments backing up Michael Pratt. Had started Tulane's bowl game against Virginia Tech last year. And then there's Darian Mensah, a California product, who Tulane offered him right before his senior year. Here are the other 2 offers he had after that. He had none before Tulane. Idaho State, which had gone 1-10, and Lindenwood. That's it. No other offers. The Tulane staff, they saw him. The recruiting coordinator saw his highlights on Twitter from his junior year, showed it to Willie Fritz and his staff. They were impressed. They went after him. They felt like they had a diamond in the rough, and he just simply won the job in the preseason. Tulane had 2 preseason scrimmages. He came in as the third guy in the first scrimmage and led touchdowns on both drives. Then they made him the first team guy to see what he could do in the next scrimmage, and he outperformed the other 2 quarterbacks by a pretty wide margin there too. He's from the Central Coast in California, which is not a heavily recruited area in general, about halfway in between Los Angeles and the Bay Area. He's got all the tools, though. He's 6'3". He has a strong arm. He had good stats as a senior, and he's a good athlete. But he just seems to have that it factor. And look, we're going to find out. Obviously, tomorrow is a much different test than what he had against Southeastern. But he absolutely earned the job, and it's his now, unless he just doesn't perform.
Yeah, what is Tulane personnel said about the challenge of this non-conference schedule that goes K-State and then Oklahoma, Louisiana, which isn't they're not world beaters, but they've been to, I think, 6 straight bowl games. And how crucial is maybe this one to where you can end it 3-1 as opposed to maybe 2-2?
This is a massive game. I mean, because when John Summerall was hired, he said his goal is to take Tulane to the college football playoff, and actually not just to the college football playoff. And obviously, that's a possibility now with the 12-team playoff, where there's a guaranteed spot for the highest rated champion of the group of 5 leagues. It would be a heck of a lot easier to get there if Tulane can beat Kansas State, or either Kansas State or Oklahoma on the road in the next 2 weeks. Obviously, getting Kansas State at home is an advantage. So, yeah, this is a massive game. 2 years ago, that was the turning point in Tulane's program, because Willie Fritz had never beaten Power 5 school in his entire coaching career until Tulane went to Manhattan and won that game 2 years ago. And that let that Tulane team know that they could be a championship-type team. This team feels the same way. They've got a lot of newcomers, a lot of transfers that came in after spring. They're starting on defense, but they believe they're a championship-level team, and the first way to show that is to beat Kansas State.
We got the pregame, we got the game right here on KFH tomorrow. Tulane hosting Kansas State in New Orleans, 11 o'clock kickoff. So Guerry Smith joining us from the Times-Picayune. We still don't know exactly what to expect from Kansas State. They also had kind of a breather in their opener, but it looks like they have a lot of speed and a lot of weapons, and they love to run it, and they can use several different people to run the football. And then they've also got that Avery Johnson thing going at quarterback. Going to be a difficult offense to deal with. What do you think? What do you think about Tulane's defense?
Certainly. It may be a good thing that Tulane has a new staff on defense, because the kryptonite under Willie Fritz was speedy quarterbacks that could do damage with their legs. That's just Plumlee at UCF 2 years ago ran for about 180 yards on Tulane and beat him. Tulane got him in the rematch in the championship game, but he wasn't really healthy in that game. And Matt Corral at Ole Miss a few years ago just ran wild on Tulane and for 4 touchdowns. So, the eye-popping stat to me, because I didn't know much about Avery Johnson. Obviously, he barely ran because he didn't need to in the first game, but when I found out he come off the bench and scored 5 rushing touchdowns against Texas Tech last year, he's a handful. John Summerall says they might have to have not 1 but 2 spies on him, but he pointed out it doesn't matter if you have a spy if the guy can't actually make the play and tackle him. So I think that Tulane's number one priority going into this game is to try to make sure that Avery Johnson doesn't kill them with his legs. Tulane has a stout run defense. Other than that, I mean, the only 2 starters returning from that game 2 years ago against Kansas State are their 2 defensive tackles in Patrick Jenkins and Eric Hicks. They're really deep up front, but it's just you don't know how you can handle a quarterback with speed like that till you're actually on the field with him, and you can't really simulate it in practice.
We talked about this a few days ago. My point was it was a little bit exaggerated, but I said you don't see Alabama playing road games in the American Conference, and K-State is not Alabama, and this home and home was in the works for a while. But how unique of an opportunity is that? Will we see many Power 5, Power 4 schools at Tulane in the future?
Ole Miss came last year. That was the first SEC school that came to Yeoman Stadium, which is in its 11th year now. But the big, Oklahoma was supposed to play Tulane here in 2021, and then Hurricane Ida happened, and the game ended up. Tulane's home game got moved to Norman, and obviously, then that was their shot there. So they do this. This is cropping up now. It is. It's a 30,000 seat stadium. It is a little different to get a Power 4 school to come, but again, Oklahoma was supposed to play here in 2021. It's a huge opportunity. Kansas State is the highest ranked non-conference opponent that Tulane has played in the 11-year history of the stadium.
Wow. All right, final moments. Guerry Smith from the Times-Picayune in New Orleans. We're here in Wichita, of course, American Athletic Conference. No football here, but certainly every other sport, and men's basketball extremely meaningful here as well as in New Orleans with Tulane. What's the latest on Tulane's aspirations? I've read a lot where Tulane's one of those schools that's maybe looking at ways to potentially get out of the American. What's the latest? And then I'd like your comments on the most recent staff dismantling at Memphis under Penny Hardaway.
Yeah. First of all, Tulane. Of course, Tulane has aspirations to move out of the American Athletic Conference because there's no way to know for sure, but it certainly looks there could be a time in the not so distant future where the power conferences break off from the rest and they play amongst themselves, and the so-called little guys don't even have a shot anymore. Tulane's new athletic director, David Harris, unlike Memphis and some other schools, he says he's not going to make any public comments because he says those things are handled in private. But sure, Tulane, let's put it this way. Tulane is in a heck of a lot better position to make that move now than they were until Willie Fritz turned the football program around in a big way. So let's start there. Sure, Tulane would love to make that jump. Nothing's imminent right now, but if they keep winning on the football field, all of these decisions are based on football. The chances get incrementally better each year for that possibility. As for Memphis, hey, Penny Hardaway, that program, it's sort of like a train wreck that somehow sort of stays on the tracks because he can recruit, that's for sure. You never know what to expect out of that team.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for sharing your insight into Tulane. That should be a fun football game tomorrow, 11 o'clock kickoff. We look forward to it. It'll be right here on KFH. Gary, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
All right, Guerry Smith from the Times-Picayune in New Orleans. We all picked K-State in this one, didn't we? Most of us?
I'm pretty sure all of us did. I could be wrong. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know how I feel about it.
It's a tough line.
Tough pick.
Duda went Tulane.
Duda went. Well,
of course he did.
That's in.
He lost his 8 already, so he's not a threat this week.
Now we've added a new wrinkle to our picks. Because we didn't get to pick Michigan, Texas yesterday, and it's certainly worthy of a game that should be picked, we're going to pick it today, but we're doing a little different.
Okay.
Confidence points are still involved, but it's 1 to 10. How confident are you? And if you don't get it right, you lose those points. So you're putting something on the line here.
A little bit.
And we'll get to that at the top of hour number 2. But a little new wrinkle for our picks.
We're going to do that every week?
Yeah, we are.
You're going to pick a different kind of game?
I'll read you a message I got from unknown user in a little bit.
Oh, is he still hanging around?
Yeah, only when he's motivated to support me.
Oh, really?
We'll talk to him.
Okay, I look forward to that.
We'll talk to him about it in a minute. Here's Stacy Olden, the executive director of the Wichita Orpheum Theater. Boy, what an announcement earlier this week. The Orpheum, which is a landmark here in our community, will be undergoing a big renovation. Stacy, congratulations. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Bob and Jeff, for having me on. It is definitely an exciting time for the Orpheum Theater.
Well, we had you on a little bit earlier, and we couldn't quite go into it all, but now we can. So tell us about this journey to get to this point, because it's been a long one.
It has been a long one. Since the theater was saved back in 1984 from demolition, there has been efforts for the last 40 years to get this theater fully restored, and I'm proud to say that, we certainly are standing beside all of those people who have put their blood, sweat, and tears and money and time into at least keeping the theater standing and operations going, and so now we are poised to be able to get the restoration planned and complete.
So I'm interested in the overall history of Orpheum theaters around the country. What can you tell us and our listeners about that, and also why Wichita's has survived for over 100 years and why it's important to our history?
Sure. So Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were over 100 Orpheum theaters built in the United States, and they were built basically for the vaudeville circuit. And there were different groups of vaudeville circuits. So you had kind of your Midwest region, you had your East Coast, West Coast, and a lot of these operations were kind of managed and run by different groups of people. But of course, all the theaters were built by different architects, and so, of course, like I said, at that time there were over 100. At this point now, in 2024, there are only 17 Orpheum theaters that are still standing, that are still in full operation, and the Orpheum Theater is one of those 17. So it's pretty exciting that we're a part of national history, but the piece of for us and why we've still been able to stay in operation, I believe, is because at one time downtown Wichita was a thriving community of theaters. I believe we had over maybe about 20 theaters in the downtown area. And it wasn't until the Miller Theater, which was just a block away from the Orpheum, one day citizens just woke up and the theater had been torn down, and now it's a parking garage. And I do believe at that time that was really when the energy and the focus turned towards the Orpheum Theater, and said we can't let that happen to this theater. And that's really when the engagement of saving the theater took place.
Stacy Olden is our guest. She is the executive director of the Orpheum Theater in downtown Wichita. Massive renovations about to happen. So you're going to shut down the theater for a year, starting in the spring. I'm executive director of a nonprofit. Of course, we're different, but I like the different things I get to think about when it comes to nonprofits. I'm sure you're thinking about a lot of different things, too. Are you thinking about who you're going to bring in for the grand opening act?
Man, that was my question.
That was my question, too. We probably talk about that on a daily basis. It seems there's always some names that pop up here and there that the team has a desire to see or thinks the community would definitely be interested in seeing. So, yes, we certainly have, and just as a not really a correction, but we are closed. It will be closed in the summer of 2025, not spring. So we'll have shows all the way through May of next year.
Okay. Well, technically spring goes into June, but yeah.
It kind of does, yeah. It does, you're right.
I did hear a rumor that Don Henley was being pursued.
Yeah, he'll be 89 by then, but you never know.
Well, there you go. We'll add that one to the list.
There you go.
So what exactly is the renovation process? What will the theater look like when it's finished? And how are you keeping kind of the community updated on its progress once it begins next year?
Sure. So we are definitely looking to bring it up to what it looked like as much as we can anyway from 1922. So some of the areas that have already been restored, like our box office and our concessions and the foyer, it'll look very similar to that. The colors and basically the whole auditorium where everyone sees when you come in up to the stage. So the floor, the seating, the plaster walls, the ceiling, everything is going to have a completely new look that does harken back to 1922. So you'll feel like when it was built, it was created to look like a Spanish courtyard, more or less. So an Andalusian garden, if you will, is what they called it. So the architect, John Eberson, wanted you to feel like you were outside. You were transported to another place. And so we'll have the night sky back in full force. So it'll feel like you're outside when you walk in. So that's really our goal, is to create that same feeling, the historic piece of it, but then also to bring the theater up to all the modern technology with the sound, the lighting, and keeping the acoustics, of course, that are already really, really well done from the time of inception up to now.
Talking with Stacy Olden from the Orpheum Theater. So what's behind all the windows on the higher floors of that building? What is up there? Does anybody ever go up there? Is it off limits? Tell us. I've always been curious about that.
The windows that you see off of First Street, several of those windows are actually from the women's restroom. So when you go, which is probably why you don't know where they went to.
That makes sense.
And then we have a couple that are on each stairway. So if you go to the upper balcony, too, you'll as you walk to the upper balcony stairwells, you'll see those. The higher ones at the very top, those are actually our projection booth windows. So all of those are in use. There are a few, of course, in the women's restroom that you can't see from the inside, but you can still see them from the outside.
So it's all part of the theater.
It's all part of the theater. It's all part of the theater.
I wanted some story about a haunted house or something.
Right. Sorry. We do give ghost tours. I know we'll have a couple of those coming up, so you're more than welcome to join us for those.
So before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about what are some of the upcoming shows at the Orpheum. We're always curious about that. You have an eclectic way of getting performers. So who are some of the people you have coming up?
Well, we have coming up actually this month, towards the end of the month, we have the Magic of Motown. So that's going to have some performers bringing in some great music from that time and that era. We also have a Celtic Thunder production that will be October 4th. And, of course, that's going to bring in some great Irish music. And gosh, through October, I can tell you we are just packed. November, we're very busy. December, we've got some great Christmas shows, holiday events coming up. The Grand Kiev Ballet for the Snow Queen will be in November. Jim Brickman is coming back to the theater December 5th. Girl Named Tom is doing a Christmas special, and they'll be here December 6th. So we have just got a full slate of events coming through October, November, and December. So definitely check out our website. And just quickly, I do want to go back to what Jeff had asked about how we'll be keeping the community informed of what's going on in the theater during restoration. So we will definitely be keeping the public informed of progress with the restoration through, of course, all of our socials. We're hoping to have a little viewing area that we can do some happy hours, some maybe First Fridays, and let the public come in and kind of get a peek through at the construction and how it's looking. So it's our goal to keep the community as involved as possible, and so we will definitely we might be dark, but we won't keep the community in the dark. So.
Well, one of the great venues in Wichita, about to get even better. Thank you, Stacy, for coming on and telling us about it, and congratulations.
Thank you, Bob and Jeff. I appreciate the time and having me on.
Stacy Olden from the Orpheum Theater here in Wichita. I'll go ahead and read what our very good friend, Unknown User, who's been following us for years.
Well, great.
Big fan of the show, and I hate to say it, big fan of me. Here's what he says.
And I'll preface this. I don't know what he says, but I will say that a lot of people, when you're listening to sports talk radio or watching one of those morning shows, everything is, you're expected it to be put in black and white. This guy he can't win the big one, or this guy's this, and it's just no room for any kind of nuance. And I'm sure that's basically how Unknown User took our opening conversation. So go ahead.
Why are you getting so defensive?
I'm not. I just know how this goes.
My goodness. Can I take that knife out of your back? Here's what he says. This year's Ravens team lost some talent, but still comparable to the Chiefs. Last year's Ravens were considered an all-time great team by advanced analytics. The analytics he provides, they were considered the third best team in the NFL since 1999. They were, by advanced analytics, way better than the Chiefs were. The Chiefs have the QB and coaching advantage, no doubt, according to Unknown User.
How do you figure that's support of you?
So there you go, Unknown User, who will remain unknown for as long as
takes like that, he should.
Well, now you don't need to insult our listeners.
Well, is he listening? Or is he taking morsels of
Any listener in this audience can disagree with me at any time.
Sure.
And they'll have a soft spot to land
Well,
in.
that's not true for me. Disagree with me, I'm coming after you.
You can disagree with me to your heart's desire.
I can't.
When we come back, we will explain a new wrinkle to our picks that we've added, and we'll explain that to you, and then we'll give you an additional pick for each of us, which could be fun, or it could be debilitating, depending on if you get it right or not.
Never know.
Back in a minute, hour number 2, The Bob and Jeff Show.
From the mind of a 2-foot-tall talking spokes puppet comes this year's biggest challenge. It's time for Bob's Dare to Compare, the hottest game show on TV that asks, what happens when you compare Bobs to the competition? You get style. You get quality. You get beeps and boops and dings and whomps. And thousands of dollars in savings. Everyone's a winner when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop in store or at mybobs.com to play now.
For the first time, U.S. subscribers can stream MLB Network 24/7, including select out-of-market games.
Swing and a drive. It's deep. It's gone. Yes.
Stream minor league affiliates.
Home run number 1. Or track pick number 1.
Plus, get MLB Big Inning and live audio for all 30 teams.
Baseball can't get better than this.
Experience the game like never before with MLB Network and At-Bat, your all-in-one baseball destination. Only $6.99 per month. Visit MLB.com/AtBat for details. Blackout and other restrictions apply. MLB trademarks used with permission.
Everybody knows it. Toyota trucks are the stuff of legends. Rugged, durable, everlasting. Toyota makes trucks that just don't quit. And now Toyota is driving that legacy toward the future with 2 of their most powerful trucks ever, the new Tundra and the all-new Tacoma. In a half-ton Tundra, you can rule the roads. From the comfort of a spacious cabin with connected tech and plenty of hauling power, the Tundra is ready to work hard and play even harder. Or check out the all-new 24 Tacoma, redesigned and electrified to maximize your adventure. With a bevy of available off-road driving and power transfer modes, you will effortlessly crush the conditions. And with the Tacoma's reimagined interior, you'll do it in style. And right now, your local Toyota dealer has more vehicles in stock and is making delivery on new vehicles almost every day. So don't wait. Buy a Tundra or Tacoma today. Visit buyatoyota.com for deals and more. Toyota, let's go places.
After investing billions to light up our network, T-Mobile is America's largest 5G network. Plus, right now, you can switch, keep your phone, and we'll pay it off up to $800. See how you can save on every plan versus Verizon and AT&T at T-Mobile.com/keep-and-switch.
Up to 4 lines via virtual prepaid card. Allow 15 days. Qualifying unlocked device credit service ported 90+ days with device and eligible carrier and timely redemption required. Card has no cash access and expires in 6 months.